and to not have even a championship appearance, let alone a title to show for.
I think a conversation needs to be had if Nikola Jokic actually wins the MVP, because I truly do think the landscape of the award, how it's being looked at, and overall the impact of the award will definitely change. A couple days ago, I saw this Twitter clip that my good friend 2for1 quote tweeted where it talked about Nikola Jokic winning the MVP.
And to not have even a championship appearance, let alone a title to show for it, is going to be glaring, especially this year. At the end of the day, you have to have something to show for it.
Now, the video itself was just basically talking about the fact, hey, he could be a 3-time MVP winner. Not just 3-time MVP winner, but 3-time straight MVP winner. And yet, for all 3 of those seasons, he has not seen the finals or even been close to it. And when my buddy 2for1 pointed this out and he said that this could really be a championship or bust year for the Nuggets, a lot of people got defensive. And it wasn't just 2for1's comment section. I went to the actual video and looked at the replies, and people were flaming Stephen A. Smith. So let's actually break this down, because this take does have some merit. Now, I'm gonna say this right off the bat. For the past 2 seasons when Nikola Jokic actually won the MVP, there's no doubt in my mind that he should have won it. It seems like every time he wins the MVP, he statistically gets better, and that includes this year. So if we're going off stats, I truly do believe that Nikola Jokic does deserve the MVP. He has the stats for it. Now, one of the biggest problems about Jokic winning the MVP was the seeding. At the time, the Nuggets were like a 4 or 5 seed each time he won the MVP. But this season, it's different. The Nuggets are the 1st seed, and they're not just the 3rd seed, but like a couple games. They have a pretty good lead, and judging by what's going on, I think there is a strong possibility that when the end of the season happens, I think the Nuggets will be the 1st seed. And I remember one of the points I made in my Jokic video was that, hey, his team is the 1 seed. If they end as the 1 seed, we need to talk about him being the MVP. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not going to merit my whole conversation on the Nuggets possibly being the 1st seed, but it's still something to bring up. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm going to be speaking in the hypothetical that Nikola Jokic has won the MVP already, and that the Nuggets actually did end up with the 1st seed. It's just going to make things easier. Now, I want to transition into an argument that I've heard, and it's that, oh, well, the MVP needs to have playoff success. Yes and no. See, the MVP award by its definition is a regular season award. In fact, there's a reason why there is a separate finals MVP award, an award for the best player on the best team that ended up winning the title. But let's face it, I think a lot more people look at the regular season MVP as a bigger accomplishment than finals MVP. I mean, let's break it down. For a finals MVP, you just have to be good for 1 series. Granted, it's the most important series of the year, but you still have to be good for like max 7 games. In the regular season, you gotta be good for 82 games. Also, there's a bunch of qualifications depending on the player. Shout out to Devin Booker. But seriously, in my opinion, and I feel like a lot of other people's opinion, the finals MVP isn't as big of an accomplishment as the regular season MVP. Alright, so let's take a step back. We've already settled on the fact that the MVP is a regular season award. So technically, we should not look at the playoffs and say this player should no longer win the MVP. It is essentially 2 different seasons, so we cannot judge them the same way. Jokic should have technically been the regular season MVP, but in the playoffs, he would definitely not win that award. So by the merit of the award and what it stands for, Jokic should win the MVP this year, and there should be no problems whatsoever. Even if the Denver Nuggets go out by like round 2 to whatever team, that should not matter. Jokic's MVP case should not be touched. But there's more to the story. Like I said, we've established the fact that the MVP is a regular season award, but I am going to judge you if you've won 3 straight and haven't won anything, especially if you guys haven't even came close to actually winning the finals. I mean, one year you got swept by the Suns. I mean, you got embarrassed. The second year you would play the Golden State Warriors, who would go on to win the title. And this season, well, that story has not been told yet. So is it not in the slightest way interesting to you guys that the 3-time straight MVP has not made the finals or been close to it? Of course, we're not supposed to judge the MVP award like that, but we kind of can. It's like playing horse with your little brother, and every time he takes his shot, it is a fucking layup. Like, technically, yeah, you can do it, but you're a dickhead. Like, yeah, it's the wrong way to look at it, but people are still going to do it. And why are we surprised? Basketball is one of the biggest sports when it comes to, if you want to be great, you need a ring or 2. There are so many all-time greats that we look at their career with an asterisk mark because they didn't win a ring. And I fear Nikola Jokic is going to have the same thing happen to him. But that's a conversation I don't want to have just yet. But what's my take? Do I think that we should judge the MVP winners if they're not good in the playoffs? No. Again, it is two different occasions, and I don't think they should be judged the same. But of course, that's not going to stop a bunch of people from making that argument. So if that's the case, should winning have any merit whatsoever on the MVP award? And I'm not talking about the playoffs, I'm talking about seeding. The way I look at it, if you're about a 3 seed or above, you should definitely be in the conversation for MVP as long as you have the stats and all the other factors do add up. And when looking at Nikola Jokic, all these factors are definitely lining up for him. Now, there's one more thing I do want to talk about, and it's the Denver Nuggets as a whole. This is definitely relevant to Jokic's MVP case because a lot of people actually bring up the team, but why are the Denver Nuggets not projected to win the NBA Finals? And truth be told, and I know Nuggets fans are going to hate me for this, I'm not confident in them winning the title this year, and there are some reasons why. Now, of course, I know this is a Jokic MVP video, and that's why I'm only doing like a short segment about this, but this is completely relevant to Jokic's MVP case, just let me explain. So yes, while the Denver Nuggets are the first seed in the Western Conference and more than likely going to end up as that, why is no one taking them seriously? Well, I think the biggest reason is because of the Denver Nuggets defense. Now, I know the last time I talked about this, people got mad at me. They're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. The Nuggets defense is really good. Apparently, they were like the #1 defense in the NBA for like a week or something. And sure, I could bring up defensive assignments. I could bring up the rotations that they made and how they're not the best. There's one big factor on why their defense is not good. And who is the root of this problem? Well, it would be the topic of today's video, Nikola Jokic. There is still a part of me that wants to make this an entire video, and I probably will with an actual film breakdown, but Nikola Jokic is not a good defender, and he's not just not a good defender, he is a terrible defender who is constantly being attacked on the defensive side. There's really no nice way of saying it, but Jokic is a liability on defense, hence why the Nuggets do not have a good defense. I mean, statistically, they're a way better team on the defensive end without Jokic, which is why, truth be told, I think there is a ceiling to the Denver Nuggets and how good they can actually do. So circling this back to Jokic winning the MVP, the unfortunate reality is that there is a ceiling to the Jokic playstyle. On offense, I have no problems with this guy, but it is on the defensive end where Jokic himself has said you need that in order to win a championship. And the unfortunate reality is that Jokic is definitely a big part of the problem. So sure, Jokic could win the MVP, but that's not going to change how bad he is on the defensive side. But of course, if you're a Jokic fan, does that really matter? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to take the accolades away. So let me end off with this. While I do think the MVP award is just a regular season award, you're allowed to somewhat judge it in the playoffs, but I don't think it really holds any merit. So the saying of, oh, this is going to ruin the MVP and it doesn't mean anything, that's still a lie. The MVP is still going to forever be one of the most coveted awards in sports history. So no, I don't think Jokic is going to ruin the award, and I still believe that Jokic should be in the running for MVP. Now, of course, my pick will fluctuate about every 1 to 2 business days, and currently I'm on the Giannis train. But don't let that confuse you. Nikola Jokic should still be an MVP candidate, and truthfully, I think there's a very good chance it could actually happen. But of course, the season is not over, and there's still a bunch of basketball that needs to be played. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't listen to casuals.
Fuck that bitch till the day I die. 220 on the dash, she got bloody red eyes. I got the pay coming in.